Good evening, my friends. Today, today I just want to share something that was in my heart. I shared it in my when I spoke Sunday at church, but I just want to share it again and just emphasize this. Luke 22:42. Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's asking the Father. He says, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And in other gospels, this happens a few times, and Jesus says the same thing. And but he ends up. The conclusion is, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And it's important to understand that the crucifixion is not just a matter of the pain and the torment of the crucifixion, but it is also about surrendering your will and obeying the Father, obeying God, even if obedience to him leads you to a place of pain and torment, like the cross. And I think that it's important to understand, like Jesus, what he did by going to the cross and choosing to do the Father's will instead of his own will. His will was obviously contrary to being crucified. Um, that's why he says, "Not my will, but your will be done," because he was at a point where he didn't want to do this. He said, "If you're willing, remove this cup from me." He didn't want to drink the cup. And it's important to see that even though he knew what was coming, he knew that he was going to be crucified, tormented, spit upon, a crown of thorns. He knew he was going to be beaten and marred and disfigured beyond even being able to be recognized, and humiliated. He knew that he was going to be humiliated. He knew all that. But he still chose to endure all that rather than disobey the Father, rather than disobey God and not do the Father's will. He set the example for us to see that cross, that humiliation, that agony, that everything that Jesus experienced and endured, that was nothing in comparison to what would be brought by disobeying the Father's will and not doing what the Father had commanded. It was better to endure that cross and obey the Father than to go to hell, right? Jesus set the example for us that even in this life, even if the Father's will for our life is to be crucified, we must be crucified rather than disobey and go to hell. Because we all are being called to be crucified. We are all being called to surrender our will. There are going to be things that we're going to have to lay down our will and surrender to the Father's will, and surrender and prove our faithfulness and our obedience to him, no matter the consequences, no matter if it even means that our lives shall be surrendered unto death. This is important. We need to understand this. And we're all having to die to ourselves daily. We're all having to die and crucify the flesh and not live according to the things that we desire. But what God gives us is so much better. It's like it can't even be compared. Like Jesus, he endured that cross for that brief moment, but then he was seated at the right hand of God, and all authority in heaven and earth was given to him. And he's calling us. He says, as I overcame and sat with my Father in his throne, so shall you who overcome sit with me in my throne. This is what enduring a cross will reward you. The reward for crucifixion is so much greater than the experience of crucifixion that it's really not even worth talking about it. The crucifixion is but for a moment, but the glory is forever. So surrender your will to the Father. Give it up. Lay it in his hands and put your trust in the one who can keep you forever.